All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, once upon a time, Pete Carroll became the head coach of the New York Jets in 1994. And at that time, he was one of the NFL's youngest head coaches. But now, at the ripe age of 73, Carroll will be the oldest. So last week, Carroll became the new head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. And Carroll will be taxed with providing the silver and black with something that they have not had in a dog's age, which is hope. We're talking about a Raiders team that since they last got to the Super Bowl at the end of the 2002 season, they've only had two winning seasons since then, two trips to the postseason, and zero playoff wins, zero division titles, nothing. Okay, during that stretch, the Raiders have also had at least 14 seasons. They've had 14 seasons where they've lost at least 10 games, with the most recent one coming this past season where Vegas went 4 and 13. I always talk about these things, and in my opinion, they're true. You can't have the turnover at the head coach, general manager, and quarterback positions consistently in the National Football League and expect to have success. Just for the head coaching position, if you will, for the Raiders. Since John Gruden originally left the Raiders after the 2001 season, they had Pete Carroll is now going to be the 14th different head coach that the Raiders have employed since then. And in my opinion, I know some people are going to look at Pete Carroll's age. But I'll tell you like this: I do truly do believe that the hire of Pete Carroll is very important for the Raiders in more ways than one. You just look at that coach's room in the AFC West, and the Raiders cannot afford to fall any further behind the curve. We're talking about Andy Reid with the Kansas City Chiefs, Sean Payton with the Denver Broncos, and Jim Harbaugh with the Los Angeles Chargers. So between those three head coaches, we're talking about four Super Bowl championships. And of course, Andy Reid has an opportunity about a week and a half from now to add to that. We're talking about multiple Super Bowl appearances. Each of those coaches mentioned has at least got to the Super Bowl once. And of course, the one time for Harbaugh was when he got the 49ers there back in 2012. Pete Carroll can clearly rub elbows with those guys, okay, because we know about the success that he had once upon a time with the Seahawks, guided them to their only Super Bowl championship in franchise history. And you think back to when Pete Carroll was with the Seahawks, especially, and Jim Harbaugh was with the 49ers. It was a constant battle between those two for the top spot in the NFC West. And of course, the Harbaugh Carroll battles don't stop there, or didn't start there. You go back to the collegiate days in the Pac 10 when Pete Carroll was at USC and Jim Harbaugh was at Stanford. And of course, Jim Harbaugh at Stanford pulled off one of the biggest upsets in college football history. They were a big time underdog. They went on the road to the Coliseum and knocked off those USC Trojans. But nonetheless, you got a situation here with Pete Carroll. And again, like I said, people are going to question his age at 73. But the bottom line is, I truly believe he still can get it done. Also, I feel like he has something to prove. And I truly feel that he's the right guy for the Raiders. I mean, you look at it, he was let go from Seattle after the 2023 season. Organization wanted to go in a different direction. And to me, I still think that they are in flux, okay, for a variety of reasons. But you look at the culture change that Pete Carroll was able to create there once upon a time, and I think he can be a part of that. He's not going to be the guy, but he can be a part of that with the Raiders. And I think he wants to go out there and show that he could still get it done in the National Football League. This is why I think it's a good hire for the Raiders, in my opinion. You're talking about a guy that in 14 years in Seattle, he only had three losing seasons. And one of those losing seasons, the Seahawks made the playoffs. They won the NFC West, and they also won a playoff game. Over that same stretch that we're talking about, During Pete Carroll's 14 years with the Seahawks, the Raiders only had one winning season. Okay, so he can be a part of a rebuild with the Raiders, and he's also going to give them something that they have not had in quite some time, which is stability. Don't get me wrong, this is not a quick fix for the Raiders because they have been a bad organization for a very long time. I talked about this last season and going into this offseason when it looked like possibly Antonio Pierce would be coming back. Okay, you've got Brock Bowers at tight end. You know he's legit. He's the real deal. You've got Max Crosby at defensive end. But at the end of the day, the Raiders have a lot of holes on this team that need to be fixed. They've got to do something about the quarterback position. What are they going to draft somebody? Are they going to trade? They're going to go after somebody in free agency. But the bottom line is, silver and black, they've got to do something about the quarterback position, upgrading the offensive line, upgrading the defense overall. We're talking about an offense with the Raiders this past season that was one of the worst in the NFL. The only three teams that scored fewer points per game than the Raiders. We're talking about the Patriots, we're talking about the Giants, and we're talking about the Browns. Three teams that are picking in the top four of the NFL draft in about 3 months. So the Raiders have plenty of work ahead of them, especially if they want to keep up in this division. Because head coaches aside, you look at the quarterback play in the AFC West. Of course, you got Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, a young and rising Bo Nix with Denver, and then of course Justin Herbert with the Chargers. So again, the Raiders cannot afford to fall any further behind the pack, if you will, in that division. The Tom Brady factor as well. We know that he's a minority owner for the Patriots right now. And of course, people are questioning how much say does Brady have in personnel decisions. And I do truly think that he has, some cachet in there. We're talking about a guy, seven-time Super Bowl champion, 10 Super Bowl appearances, clearly first ballot Hall of Famer, one of, if not the greatest quarterbacks to ever have gotten it done. And I feel like, to me, maybe he put some feelers out to a Bill Belichick before Bill Belichick went to North Carolina. I'm not sure. Okay. I'm just speaking hypothetically here. But nonetheless, I think of the head coaches out there on the market, if you will, in this coaching cycle, I truly believe that Pete Carroll was one of the best options for the Raiders. At the end of the day, the National Football League, in my opinion, is a much better place when the Raiders are winning. And of course, it hasn't been that way for about 2 decades now, or a little bit more than 2 decades. So basically, you have a generation of football fans who have now grown up and they don't understand how important that the Raiders have been to the history of the National Football League, whether it was Oakland or Los Angeles. Granted, most of it was done in Oakland, and now, of course, they're in Vegas. The Raiders have been a part of that fabric, and they need to find a way to get back to that. Of course, the latter years of the late Al Davis, saw the Raiders become one of the worst franchises in the National Football League. It has continued that trend, if you will, under Mark Davis. And like I said, they've got to get back to some stability. It looked like John Gruden was bringing the Raiders out of that before he was fired back in 2021. They had that playoff trip with Rich Bisaccia as an interim head coach, and Mark Davis made a big mistake. And I said it from the word go, as far as going out there and reaching out to Josh McDaniels. And Josh McDaniels set this franchise back worse than what they were. So now the Raiders are really starting from scratch once again. But like I said, they need consistency at quarterback. They need consistency at the head coaching spot as well. So it's one of those you ask yourself, will Pete Carroll get things turned around for the silver and black? There's a possibility. Okay. He has his work cut out for him, but it's not just a Pete Carroll issue. It's a Raiders issue as an organization. They've got to get back to drafting guys. They have to get back to developing talent. They have to get back to expecting to win. Going out there and competing and winning are two different things in the NFL. The Raiders have shown that they can compete, but they've got to go out there and win those games, especially in that division, because they've got to try to find a way to make some noise. And it's not easy when we're talking about where the Chargers, Chiefs, and Broncos are currently. But nonetheless, Pete Carroll is the guy for the Raiders going forward. I truly do believe that he will instill uh, some energy. I truly do believe that he will, establish some semblance of order. It's just a matter of whether or not it's going to be enough for the Raiders to keep up in that division. I truly do think that they will be more competitive next season than they were this year. I'd like to see what they're going to do with their draft. I'd also like to see what they are going to do at the quarterback position. Those are the two biggest things. Some people are throwing it out there already. Would there be a Russell Wilson reunion with one Pete Carroll? Of course, they did have success together in Seattle. We've got to wait and see. You never say never in the National Football League. But nonetheless, the Pete Carroll era is here for the Raiders. Tom Brady era behind the scenes for the Raiders is here as well. So let's see what this offseason entails for the Silver and Black. This was just the first move, but let's see what's going to be next for the Raiders as they try to get it going. But folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Also, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.